The Christmas Witch has 3 book recommendations for you. The first one is Icarus Girl. This is a lovely book. It was the first book by this particular author, and her name is Helen Oyeyemi. And it's set partially in the UK and partially in Nigeria, which just makes it that much more enchanting because it's kind of like high mythological fantasy. The main character, Jessamy, who goes by Jess most of the time, is haunted by the ghost of a girl named Tilly that she meets in her grandfather's estate in Nigeria. And at first, she doesn't know it's a ghost. Everybody else knows it's a ghost, though. Like, it is definitely a ghost. The reader knows, the narrator knows, everybody knows it's a ghost. The parents, though, actually think it is an imaginary friend. And then Tilly turns out to be something else entirely. This is a scary book. Use your parental guidance button and take a look at this first, because there are some topics that might be controversial for you. There is bullying, there is violence, there is the discussion of losing a baby. So if any of that is controversial to you, it is not to me. I would let my child, if I had one, read this at 12. They are mature enough to discuss and ask questions, in my opinion. But everybody's child is different. So, I'm giving you that warning. It is lovely. It uses a lot of Nigerian mythology and the Yoruban gods, and I found it just a delightful tale for anybody to read. This is a book for your older reader, 15 and above. I would not give this to young children. Definitely do not give this to your 10-year-old child to read. It is a scary book. It is a very scary book. It has a delightfully scary movie adaptation too. This is Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. He got his start as an author doing comic books, so you have a very visual style of storytelling in the way he describes situations. It is a zombie book, but it is not your typical zombie book. The main character is a very young teenage girl whose name is Melanie, and she is a zombie, and that is the whole setup of the book. She is a fabulous teacher who guides her through some sticky situations as they try to get through a wasteland post-apocalyptic environment. And this one is also oddly in the UK and has an African-American protagonist. You should check this out. Definitely read it. There are other books in the series. There is The Boy on the Bridge and Fellside. They're not sequels. Boy on the Bridge is kind of like a contemporaneous slight prequel book, and Fellside is just in the same universe. I could write an entire thing about the movie changing the race of the 2 main characters, but I don't care right now because the movie is really good and Glenn Close is in it and her sister is a zombie in the movie. My third book suggestion is Children of Blood and Bone. We read this for the Seattle Gothic Book Club. Actually, all 3 of my suggestions we read for Seattle Gothic Book Club. Go Seattle Gothic Book Club. We are really good at picking books. But anyway, back to this book. This is an amazing wild ride. You have 4 teenagers who are trying to bring magic back to the world after an evil ruler has basically gone out of his way to make it impossible for people to access their natural magical powers. And there are some people who have magic and some people who don't. So there are plenty of normal people in the world, and the ruler in this alternate version of Nigeria, which is where it takes place, has like destroyed artifacts and severed the line to the gods. And it uses the same kind of Yoruban, Orisha religious mythology to it, which is really cool. It's also just a beautiful book. I mean, the cover art is beautiful, and they did a really good job on making a map of the world, because in every fantasy novel there should be a map, so you have some kind of point of reference. So you can see there's actually like Lagos is in here, and Chandomble. I don't know how you actually say that, but in my mind that's how it's said, because there's a little apostrophe above one of the vowels. Yeah. And the book itself is just beautiful without the dust jacket. Let me just... Indiana Jones moment there, with the sun shining on it. So pretty. But the story is really good. It's kind of like Avatar, The Last Airbender. They're teaming up. There's one character who's on a redemption arc. Hopefully, maybe, you never know. It's always hard to tell with redemption arc characters. There's one character who is trying to live up to everything because they think that they're just a big screw up. And then there's one character that's the brother who's always taking care of that. And then there's one character who is supposed to be a ruler someday, but she's just not feeling the princess thing. She doesn't get the castle politics. She doesn't like the social aspects of it, and she just wants people to be okay. And her best friend is a magic user, and sad times are ahead. These 4 young people who are actually in their late teens go on an epic adventure with hybrid animals like leopard. Well, they're hybrid animals. There's nothing that's like a leopard or a lion. Like, there's a lion with horns, and they call that a leonare in this. And then there's a leopard version, which is a hybrid animal. You would never come up against a bear. Well, what kind of bear is it? It's just a bear. That doesn't exist here.
The king is having a party at the palace tonight for his pet bear.
You mean platypus bear?
No, it just says bear.
Certainly you mean his pet skunk bear.
Or his armadillo bear? Gopher bear?
Just bear.
This place is weird.
This is a book that takes you up a hill and then drops you down really fast, and then takes you up another one and then drops you down really fast. It's action-packed. It's just beautifully, artfully written, and it was featured on Jimmy Fallon at one point, which was really exciting. I recommend this. This is actually probably the most expensive thing on my list. It's $18.99. I got this at the Amazon bookstore, but you can get it literally anywhere that sells books right now, and you should. And everyone should read this. This book is good for everybody, although it is violent. There is a lot of graphic violence. They talk about torture. There is sex in it, but I believe that in this world, anybody can really read this. You know, again, use your parental guidance and guide your children. If you don't want them reading this, read it first. At least you'll have fun with it. It's a really good book. And I hope they take this and adapt it. It's going to be a trilogy too, so when you get to the end and stuff, don't be like, what kind of an ending was that? There's going to be 2 more books in this series. I'm American, and so everything is African American because we're American. And every book that I featured in this video is not in America, so they are of African descent. And I just want to make that clear because 2 of my books take place in the UK, and one of them takes place in a fantasy version of Nigeria. So please forgive me for referring to things as African American. That's just where my mindset was. Happy holidays. And may the... Where's my wand? Ah, I'm the worst witch. I love that show. Merry Christmas. happy solstice and happy Hanukkah. The first week of December, and this video is probably going to come out afterwards, but I hope you had a happy Hanukkah and may the holiday Christmas witch grant you a wonderful day. The Christmas witch has 3... Wow, that's obnoxious. I am so sorry. Let me get this out of my system.